What's going on, guys? From Alaska boats to building across California, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado. Today's guest is none other than Nick Rossi. He's a builder, investor, and founder who actually shows the work, progress shoots, roughs in, real budgets in, with no fluff. We're diving into real numbers, seller credits, ADUs, and the system that keeps projects moving. If you want practical rules from someone who's done hard things in hard places, this is the one. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Straight to the Point. I'm your co-host, Tristan Guerrero with West Coast Property Bros. Today, we have on a special guest, Nick Rossi. We actually recorded a podcast previously, and so we're now here with a rerun.
Here we go.
Round two, baby.
Let's go.
So, Nick, let's dive into the episode real quick, and let's get straight to the point.
Right on.
Cool. So before you got into development, Nick, you were a fisherman in Alaska, worked on a boat, and now you live on a boat now. So from Alaska to what you do now in real estate development, what's kind of one moment from each world that permanently changed how you handled money and risk, and what did it cost or save you, possibly?
I think one of the things that I realized at a young age, I was working on tugboats, and as a 21-year-old dude, we were making pretty good money. And so you learn at a young age that this money comes in. So you have a lot of money in ebbs and flows, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It can be spent very quickly, right? And so you start to learn a little bit more stability as time goes on. You have your fun years and you blow through money. And one thing that I've realized is the stability and the structure about how you handle your money for long term is really what sets the pace on how you develop what you're going to do from there. And so spending habits, I think, is a big one.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest takeaway from learning that back then versus now?
Biggest takeaway would be starting at a younger age, right? So fast tracking as life has gone on now.
Right.
Paying closer attention to finances to fast track how you grow and the foundation of money.
Okay. And when you got into the real estate game, was it a really hard transition for you to go from Alaska into development?
It takes some getting used to. You got to be comfortable with debt. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Signing a note of $750,000 and never owning a property before is unnerving, right?
Yeah.
But when you educate yourself with money, it isn't actually that big of a deal because you learn that there's checks and balances to the finances. And if you take calculated risk, that money will come in. And as long as you have a balance and you know there's some comfortability behind it, you're going to be in a really good place.
Oh, okay. Because I know a lot of people, especially in like my generation, don't want to experience that uncomfort. They're comfortable, going to that 9 to 5, or they're comfortable with their way of life. But even though that they want to strive to get this overall bigger picture, their reality that they want to build, but they're too scared, or maybe don't want to experience that uncomfort. What would you tell someone that has that dream but doesn't want to strive and get it?
We've all heard the no risk, no reward, right? It's cliche, it's true, but understanding if you don't feel uncomfortable, you're never going to grow, and you're going to continue feeling the exact same way unless you're willing to sacrifice something.
Yeah. What did you feel like you sacrificed when you made the switch and jump to what you do now?
Man, I took a jump for sure. The first property, never owning a property before, was a pretty big leap. It was 2 units on one lot. I just went for it head first. Like, I've worked in development. I've experienced this whole evolution of finances, just never on the other end of it as the note holder. And yeah, just full speed, man.
Yeah. And then maybe let's talk about how you got into it. So when you were fishing, how did you find out about even the real estate development coming in as a thought in your
So
mind?
actually, I got off boats in 2017.
Okay.
And there was a ton of injuries. I was seeing a lot of not so great things in this industry. And I decided that it was time for a change. I wanted to experience something different. I actually went abroad with my fiance, we moved to Australia for about 5 months. We decided to take a hiatus, and then we traveled Southeast Indonesia for another 5 or 6 months. When I got back, we met up. We landed in Oregon, and we were only going to be there for like 1 or 2 months, and then move back down to San Diego.
Oh, wow.
We met up with a developer there, and in conversation, one thing led to another, and it was all about aptitude and knowledge. And he really needed help at the time, and I swear timing really has a lot to do with everything in your life. But it only comes when you're ready, when you're the right version of yourself to open the next door, right? I was ready at that time, and we met for a reason, and he taught me a ton about development. And it actually took us about 1.5 years on that detour to move to San Diego, because we went through a crash course with him. And we learned a ton. I mean, we were diving into 60-unit multifamily buildings, and then we met up with another developer that did raw land entitlement. So I really got to understand the process from start to finish, and most of my job was spent in the acquisition and acquiring entitlements.
Yeah, and I remember going through your social media page too, like, you have a project that you finally started on your own, that you call your own, because is it the 2-unit?
Yep. Yeah. We've got 2 units on one lot in Normal Heights.
Yeah. And I love all the content you post about it. And one that caught my eye, which I think is your most played reel, you talk about the 2% seller credit. When does that move create real equity versus just making an overpayment, or what comps and terms make it legit to go into?
As far as overpaying, you're going to negotiate the buy and the sell on day one, right? Yeah. Your sale comes from your buy. How you purchase this property is going to determine how you navigate the sell. So in order to calculate how you're going to buy this property, and understanding that a 2% seller credit is going to make sense is generally when it's going to be a value add project. You're going to be able to force an extra 2% on that credit, in return helping you reduce your overall out-of-pocket cost.
When you're doing the negotiation process of any deal, what would you say is one tip or advice you could give the audience that you take into a deal and to the table?
I think you can always find information online on Zillow and Redfin and these other sites to look at transactions that have been sold. A lot of people open up their search really wide, and they could possibly cross lines into another zip code. You need to really stay refined in your zip code and find like-sized properties. And there's companies like Marcus and Millichap that actually produce documents that show you all of the data for rental properties. Using all of your resources and even AI resources to understand what your resale value is going to be, or your rental data. Don't force something because you think it looks right. Only pencil conservatively based on the market data that's actual, not projected. A lot of people will project market data, what could happen in 6 months, or rent increases in 1 year at 4%. Don't project what could happen because you don't know.
Right. Huh. Interesting. And have you ever ran into having to deal with a deal or work with maybe a partner that has done that method, and you have to work with them to say, look, the numbers aren't going to make sense now. Let's use the numbers and the data from
my first entry into real estate was in 2007 when I got out of high school and I started doing loans. One of my first jobs out of high school, I went from graduation into the loan office in Morgan Financial. One of our biggest banks was Countrywide. This was back when the big crash happened. The owner of the mortgage company was an extremely intelligent guy. He was crushing it on flips. He was turning them over every couple months. The acquisition was great. The money was good. He got stuck with 9 flips when the market crashed because he was so extended. He was preemptively planning for all of these, flips to happen. Granted, this was like a very extreme situation. But ultimately, even when the going's good, you still have to have the bandwidth in order to make sure that everything happens, in your cards, basically.
Oh, totally. Man, that must have been tough.
Yeah, it wasn't great for him. It was a good learning lesson for sure. 9 flips and to 0.
Right. From what you've been talking about today, what made you get into real estate development? Like why was that your calling?
I enjoy the inner workings of real estate development a lot more than traditional renovations.
Mm.
For me, they fit in the box in the organization a lot better. So as you are developing properties, things are on a lot more structured timeline. Materials are acquired a little bit more structured. It doesn't mean that it's better for all cases, but for my particular personality and structure of management and ownership, they make sense for me to follow that protocol. I feel like it's a lot more scalable as well. Renovations have a lot of turns, unknowns behind the walls, the oops, the termites, the oops,
Yeah.
this wall wasn't supposed to be here. Oh, we didn't have enough foundation. We've got to pour this here. Those things, when you're talking about finances, are unknown. So you set contingencies for them. Your contingency budget on a renovation should be roughly 20 to 25%, if not more. On a new construction project, of course, you carry that on numbers, but you generally get to be under the 20% contingency, and you get to follow the time. Money and time, money loves speed, right? So
Right,
the
yeah.
idea behind that is that you're going to keep a better schedule, and you're going to follow this process more structured, so that way your end result or your end product can be done on a more structured timeline.
Right. Why the 20% rule?
For the renovations, the
Yeah, yeah.
25%.
Yeah, 25% rule.
So 25 to 30% is right out of the gate. When you jump into a renovation project, I guarantee you by the first time you pull that wall down or the very first wall, you're going to find something you need to fix. And if
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times people choose not to fix it and cover it right back up. But the reality is most of these things need to be fixed. There's a
Right.
term called current code compliance, right?
Okay.
So when you renovate a project or when you renovate a property, you are now obligated to bring that property up to current code compliance. So no matter what you
Oh,
do, you're
okay.
obligated to do so. So it could be bathroom fixtures, window heights, ADA compliance, egress compliance. So not only do you have those elements, but you also have the ones that are hidden. So if you want to just replace windows in the house, now you have to make sure they're reframed and they're egress capable. So that way you have them lower to the bedroom, so that
Yeah.
way you can get out of them. So now you have all of these extra elements that you don't generally have in, new construction or new developments.
Interesting. Okay. Because you just don't know what comes with the project until
The,
you
the
start
saying
working
is
it.
you don't know what you don't know, right? So
Right.
until you knock the walls down or until you really start to get into demo, you're not going to know exactly. You can do this a lot, and people are really good about setting these budgets there, but I like the speed a little better.
Yeah. When you first got into the development game, how uncomfortable did you feel right off the gate?
You are planning to have a finished product in a certain amount of time. And when you start at dirt level, you start looking at it and you're like, shit, I need to have a duplex here in 4 months. And so now you're like, okay, it's real. We're digging dirt, and now I can see that this duplex is going to be built. Once the framing goes up, your mind really starts to understand. Like, I have a vision, right? I can see what I want to do. I can see how it's going to get there, and I can see the process. But it is a lot more comfortable when you can physically see it and not imagine it.
Right. Because it's kind of interesting because not a lot of people want to take that step into something that, like what you said, they can't see. You gotta imagine it first. How much planning goes into going into something like that? And like what barrier do you have to go through so that you're not stuck in the past, but you move past and take that action?
The best thing to do is have somebody in your corner that understands the code and also the use of the property. So what I mean by the use of the property is what is in that neighborhood that you're going to develop. So if you have 2-bedroom units with balconies or yards, you kind of understand, like, that's what the standard is in that neighborhood, first of all, and you're not building 20 units in the backyard of somebody's house in Claremont. You want to make sure that you're building to that area. Also, having an architect that is knowledgeable and not cheap. Everyone wants to go for cheap because what they don't see, they don't want to spend money on. Those are professional services. They're professional for a reason. Spend the money on those services. Otherwise, you will pay the consequence on the end product. The right professional parties will explain the process. They will design with the right flow and the right intent, and the windows are in the right location for the sun and the sundown.
Yeah.
Right? And your kitchen has the right location, the bedrooms are the right size, the closets fit the bedrooms properly, the washer and dryer is not an aftermath. These types of things you want to really make sure that you go over in that preliminary process. And then you also want to make sure that your site is ready to be buildable. So, you
Okay.
have all your own drainage, that the street isn't higher than the dirt, on your lot, because then you got to eject the water out of your lot instead of have it slope
Right.
out of your lot.
Oh man.
So paying the professional parties to help you during this process, whether you know everything about construction, you're still not an architect. And so
Yeah.
you can have ideas and comments about how you want this place designed or how you want this whole thing to work.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you just want to make sure you lean on your team. And that's what it is. You have a team. Before you go vertical with construction,
Yeah.
there's a long process that goes into it.
Totally. And now, out of all the projects that you've been a part of, how many of them went according to plan?
They all have challenges, right?
Yeah.
They're all human beings working in these projects, right? So you can have everything great on paper. You can have all the finances great on paper.
Yeah.
And you can have a contractor not show up because some reason or another, and
Right.
it doesn't work, or he's not allowed to do construction anymore, or something like that. So at the end of the day, your biggest challenge is going to be human error.
When you're developing, and you were just talking about, you know, running into hiccups, whether it be someone being on time to the job site or maybe materials not showing up on time, not not everything goes according to plan, essentially is what you're saying. Now, going off of that, how are you able to work around those situations that don't go to plan?
In my type of development or construction, I don't really handle a lot of like very boutique, Italian designer type stuff, because we've done a lot of hotel renovations where they'll import tile from Spain, and a case of it or a pallet will show up broken, and it takes 3 months to get it. So now you end up with this situation where you're finding an alternative solution, which means you're settling for something different. Most of my stuff is generally found, like, you don't have to pay top dollar to have top dollar look, as long as you do a little bit of research, right?
Right.
Ultimately, you want to have something. There's a few statement pieces in a property that you pick, right, that really stand out, and those you don't sacrifice on. Otherwise, the whole project looks sacrificed.
Right.
You can find alternative solutions, and keeping a level head is really what you need to do in any situation, right? As a business owner, but also in construction, and that's something I'm still learning today, right? But having a level head, because every single day you are putting out a fire in construction.
Yeah. What was probably one of your more challenging situations, if you could talk on that, and how were you able to combat that and have the right mindset to, keep the project going during that period?
Slow to hire, quick to fire. That saying comes in a lot. We did a hotel renovation at a property in San Diego. It was 131 keys.
Dang.
This project was multiple months overdue and several punches missed. After several attempts to try and salvage the relationship of guys not showing up or certain issues or inadequate material orders, ultimately, if you start to see some of your non-negotiables leave, right? So like certain things that I find as non-negotiable is if you start to show up more frequently, like late or not at all, or you are missing multiple days throughout the week, and that's happening a lot. And I'm talking more like the key players, right?
Yeah.
Superintendent's the one that runs the project.
Right.
The foreman is the one that physically is there moving things. If those guys aren't there, now you start to have a problem. So that's where the organization comes in, where you start to see those typical elements leave the project on a regular basis. Time to go.
Right. That must be tough that when the people that you rely on aren't there helping you in your corner.
Construction has a extremely common situation happen frequently. And that is contractors overextend themselves because the need for money. It's not because the desire to grow, it's for the need of money. They run overextended, and now they have to chase every single project they can possibly get just to make payroll. This is going to happen all the time. You're going to see it all the time where guys are trying to spread themselves thin throughout multiple projects.
Yeah.
That is the need, right? You are going to suffer from their lack of diligence on the need. So you have to pay attention to those signs. If the guy that you're talking to most frequently, if you ever catch him doing labor, it's likely that you're going to start running into issues, because now he's going to miss his timelines. You're not going to get your change orders. You're not going to get your contracts. And you're going to start suffering from that relationship of misorganized or disorganization.
Now, relationships must be a huge thing for you as well. Like being able to hire the trusted right people to do the job that you need to do. How important is it in this scenario to find the right people and have the right relationships, or weed out the bad ones?
I will always pay a little more for reliability. So just because it looks cheap on paper does not mean it's cheap. It could cost you tens of thousands of dollars in delays. And I've learned the hard way, right? You look at a price and you're like, man, I could save $5,000 here and another $8,000 there with just this one contractor, you know, or $20,000 here on this trade. At the end of the day, you have to understand, why is that? So one of the things that I really ask on my projects when I'm getting estimates from other subs is I don't only ask the price, I ask their projected timeline. And that lets me understand that they're fully seeing the picture. So if I see a guy that estimates a project and he's $20,000 cheaper and he's four weeks shorter or 2 weeks shorter, I need to start understanding, well, maybe he doesn't see what's actually going on, or maybe he's missing parts of the plan. So then I look at the next guy and the next guy. And when I start to see that their picture lines up with their price, now I'm seeing a contractor that fully understands the big picture, right? That's the guy that I want to go with. Everybody thinks price is everything. No, it's understanding of the project. It's understanding of the scope of work that you're estimating or that you're doing.
Yeah, because I've ran into a couple scenarios where, you know, hiring someone that is the cheapest may not necessarily be the best person for the job, and then it doesn't go according to plan, and you're like kicking yourself in the foot, like, dang, why did I do that?
The best way to think of it is there's no such thing as a silver bullet in construction. You see all these prefab buildings that are just going to go up in 2 days. There's so many more challenges than you can ever imagine in something like that. The contractor that comes in and says he can solve everything and he's going to be done for, 4 or 5 weeks shorter, it's not to say that it's not possible. It's not common.
Do you have someone that you look up to that's your mentor, that has been guiding you, mentoring, coaching you through where you are at today?
Man, without seeing that and having those mentors, I would have struggled a lot more in life. You know, you always feel like you're going to learn by other people's mistakes. You got to make your own to know which those mistakes that you fail at. You know, so even though I've had a mentor, I've still made those mistakes where I've either taken on too much work because I thought that I can handle it, or one thing or another. But yes, I've had mentors that have showed me the ropes, that have given me crash courses on how to do these projects or to buy real estate. And I've had mentors in all age groups as well. I've watched all types of experiences, from guys that are in their 60s to guys that are in their 40s. And I have a couple mentors that I value and really appreciate the growth and experience from.
Yeah. Do you feel it's important to have one mentor or multiple mentors?
I think you should have a couple mentors, absolutely. And it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish in life and growth, but even just like mindset. And, you know, business is one part of your life, right? But personal growth is how you derive the experience in how you grow as a business person or how you grow in your relationship. And so you may have a great mentor in business, but who's your mentor in your mind? Who helps you grow as a person to understand who you are and what you need as a person to grow?
Right. Yeah. I never thought of it that way, outside of business, having a mentor for your personal life. How has having multiple mentors changed your life to be the person you've become today?
Devil's advocate is something we don't necessarily enjoy, but it's
Uh-huh.
something we need. It's the necessary evil. Understanding, both sides of the story, or understanding your own faults and having somebody that keeps you accountable to those faults.
Mhm.
So that way, if you see this happening, you check yourself up. You understand what you need to do right, and you notice what you're doing wrong.
I see. Okay. Kind of like a checks and balances system
Yeah,
for yourself.
100%.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just gonna run rampant, man.
Right. What did you feel like it took for you to dive right in from the get-go into development? And knowing of what you know now, what piece of advice would you tell yourself, younger self, let's just say 19, 20, about how to get into the business you're in today?
Honestly, we just touched on the mentors, and I think that was a huge part.
Uh-huh.
When I was a chief engineer, I had a mentor that helped me grow, and I was one of the fastest growing people in my industry at that company. I went from being a deckhand, and a year later I was a chief engineer. That usually takes many years, 5, 10, 15 years to happen. I had somebody that taught me a lot. With that being said, the key element, even when I'm mentoring somebody or I'm teaching somebody something, I'm not going to come chase you. You got to come find me, right? That shows that you have the initiative and the want, the desire to learn. That's the same for me, man. I'm a sponge when it comes to things like that. Like when I'm ready to learn something, I'm diving in. So having a mentor, you really gravitate towards that experience and that knowledge. And once you gravitate towards something, that's right. That's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you just run from there.
Right. How important is faith to you as a person?
In a religious sense?
Religious, or, maybe.
I feel like fate is important. I feel like fate for me is more opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you create your opportunities by the situations you put yourself in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to have fate or an opportunity arise because you put yourself in the right situation, and the steps leading up to that situation you have paved the way for.
Okay. And now knowing that, do you still feel like being at the right place at the right time is still pretty crucial?
I think it's critical because if you want to do something, you better be in the area or the vicinity of that something that you want to do.
Uh-huh.
So learning and educating yourself, surrounding yourself by the people that are doing what you want to do, right? If you're in a room with a bunch of people that are doing what you want to do, and you've educated yourself in a sense, and you've put yourself near or close to those people, I pretty much count on the fact that you're probably going to be in the right situation at the right time.
Totally, totally. And now, kind of touching bases back on the network relationship point of things. Have you ever ran or had a relationship, business partner relationship, where you put all your trust into them and it backfired and it turned out to be a bad relationship?
Oh, man, absolutely. Absolutely. You, whenever you start to feel like you're doing more or you're giving somebody favors, start putting the walls up, right? That's when you're starting to realize the relationship or the business partnership isn't going right. You want to make sure that you come clean and have these conversations and be transparent in the very beginning so that way you prevent them. The biggest thing you need to do is write everything on paper, roles and responsibilities. But I have had 2 business relationships fail. And in the sense of fail, I'm still friends with both people, right?
Yeah.
But it generally happens that at given moments in your life where you're both aligned and people's lives can take a different turn, right?
Yeah.
And you're counting on both of you to be at the right place, the right time, down the right path. A guy gets a divorce. He has a big challenge. But his character is how he handles that.
Right.
And if he's not around or something happens or he decides that he's not in it anymore, now you're left with the pieces behind.
Right.
So you need to make sure that that relationship is really defined in the very early stages.
Totally.
Shit happens, man.
Right.
Right? And you will learn that these business relationships that fail are needed. You need to understand, because then you'll realign how you look at how you do business on your own or with the next person.
That's true. Yeah. Right. When you realize to step back, look at it more from a third person perspective, how much do you learn from like a bad relationship versus, you know, keeping the same one or staying in it with someone knowing that it's not doing you or serving you anymore?
Your losses are your biggest win, right?
Uh-huh.
If you win every time, you're not going to grow. These wins are just going to be very marginal.
Uh-huh.
When you lose, you focus on why you lost, and you pave the way, already planning for those roadblocks that could possibly come up, and you're going to be that much better every single time. Don't go on a path of failing all the time, right? You really want to just make sure you're winning, or you're achieving the success that you want to achieve. But ultimately, you really need to have failures in order to pave the way for your wins.
For someone like in my age group, the younger generation, trying to maybe make that first leap of faith into going towards starting that business or going to entrepreneurship or wanting to go into development or real estate, what's one piece of advice you could give them to be able to motivate them to do that?
The biggest factor is getting in the rooms with the people that are doing what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the question you need to ask yourself is, what's the worst that's going to happen if it doesn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
And if the worst thing that's going to happen, if it doesn't work out, you end up back where you're at today, so what?
Right.
We only have one life, man. Take the leaps, because I always say I never want to be in my rocking chair when I'm older saying, I wish I would have. That is my biggest fear in life, is I wish I would have. That is a statement no one should ever say.
Right.
Now you're going through all your wish I would have.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like woulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah. Because you think about it too, man. I hear all these people. I think one of the biggest things that I listen to is, you know, the older generation, and you watch how they live life or what they're doing, and you hear more than none the statement, oh, I didn't have that opportunity, or I wish I could have done that when I was younger,
Right.
or I wish I would have. You're going to hear that a lot. And now you're going to start to take notice to it. And the only thing that you need to do is take that action. What you don't change, you choose, right? That's the saying. What you don't change, you choose.
Right.
Are you choosing what you want, or do you need to take the next step?
Right.
Make the change.
Totally. Shoot. I think I would hate myself if I didn't move here to San Diego. I'll say that. As someone that just moved down here. You know, I want other people to watch this. The same thing that you did, same thing we did, to be able to take that first step to say, like, look, there's other people that have done it. Now, put in the work and put faith into what you believe is going to work for you.
Absolutely, man. I think it's monumental what you did moving down to San Diego. A lot of people stay in their hometown, and the one thing I could say, even if you go back home, not a big deal. But if you have the opportunity that you create to move out of your hometown for even a year or 2 years to experience life in a different neighborhood, in a different group of friends, it's going to change your outlook. It changed my life. I love where I grew up in Oregon. I enjoyed and valued all my friendships and all of the areas I lived in, but I wouldn't change anything today. I love where I live in San Diego. The diversity, not to mention the damn good food.
Right.
Everywhere you go, anything you want for food, the weather, the people, the smiles. I find a lot of inspiration in this town, and there's so many other towns out there. I mean, I recommend every single person to move out of their hometown, even for a short period of time, just to see what life is like outside of it.
Totally. Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming on this rerun episode with me.
Heck yeah,
Straight
man.
to the point, man.
Thank you.
And taking some time after a couple retries here on
There we
recording. I'll talk about not things going to plan.
That's how it works.
But cool, I really appreciate it,
Yeah,
dude.
thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, anytime. And to you guys watching, thanks for staying tuned to this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later.